Talking about the baby too. Oh, really? I did not. Oh, no. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I got some steps in today. Make sure you guys are getting your steps in. You want to go see the Lakeside Center again, more KitchenAid over there. Again, a definitely healthy theme. Everyone's healthy this year. But if Chef Addie Gundry is going to have time for questions, please wait till I bring that mic around so everyone can hear. You guys can get your 15 seconds of fame and ask our celebrity chefs what's pressing your mind you need to know. So I'll be hanging out with the mic. All right, I think we are almost there. Chef, are we? You're ready.
Gotta get this. Ooh, and I'm on.
And you're hot. Hot mic.
Scared me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, kicking off a great day here, day 2 at the International Home and Housewares Show, KitchenAid Cooking Theater. Another special guest for us here today, a very accomplished best-selling cookbook author with 11 different titles to her name. She served as the executive chef at Louise's, one of LA's top Italian restaurants. Her culinary career boasts a very impressive resume, working with the likes of Thomas Keller and Martha Stewart. She also is the culinary director and executive producer at Prime Publishing, where she oversees creative content that lives on 39 different craft web platforms. She's a Food Network star and a winner on Cutthroat Kitchen. Please welcome Chef Addie Gundry.
Hi, everyone. This is so exciting to be here. I am going to walk you through one of my favorite recipes from one of our books. This is the Easy Chicken Recipe book. And as Chris mentioned, I have quite a few cookbooks out, and they're all very easy recipes that anyone can do at home. So that's sort of what I'm all about. I went to culinary school in France, so I was formally trained. I know it sounds really fancy, but it wasn't as fancy as it sounds. And I worked for Thomas Keller and Daniel Boulud, so I had a very fine dining sort of background, and then realized, like, I don't really want to make my own biscuits when I can buy really good canned ones, right? So I know how to cook, but I've actually sort of gone in the direction of how do we make things easy, yet still really elegant, and make them look like they came out of a fancy kitchen. I'm a new mom. I have a little babe at home. Thank you. That's my biggest accomplishment. And he's 5.5 months. So now I'm really not making my own biscuits, right? It's like, what's for dinner? Cereal. So anyways, every recipe I have is super easy to make. You guys can check out the books over at our Macmillan booth, and let's get cooking, right? So please feel free to just ask questions throughout this. I'm very casual. We can chat about anything. You want to know about what Bobby Flay wore behind the scenes at the Food Network star, we can talk about that. Like, you name it, I'm an open book, okay? So here's what we're gonna make. We are gonna make, out of this book, the chicken rotini bubble up casserole. So essentially, it almost tastes like a chicken pot pie, but it's all gonna go into a casserole dish. Again, a little easier than making a chicken pot pie. And instead of messing around with crust, what we are gonna do is cut biscuits, put it on top, and bake it, and the biscuits bake on the casserole, okay? And let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is boil our pasta, because we want the pasta to be completely cooked when it goes into the casserole. You could use any pasta you want, in all honesty. We use these little corkscrews, rotini, but if you like wheels or shells, it's all the same. So we're gonna let that boil, and now we're gonna make our filling. So what goes in it is our cooked chicken, which we just baked this chicken in the oven, and you can either dice it or shred it. You could use a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store. Again, you're just putting any sort of cooked chicken in it. You can use chicken thighs, leftovers, whatever. But we have 3 breasts that have been cooked. And before we put that in the filling, we're gonna start to saute our vegetables and create the sort of the thickness with the flour and the broth. So we're gonna chop a couple carrots, because we're gonna do carrots and frozen vegetables. Could you put in fresh vegetables? Of course, but again, you're busy. You don't really need to deal with that if you don't want to. So while I'm chopping these, who has a question for me? Yes, I love it. Chris is on it.
Hi.
Hi.
When you're writing your cookbook, right?
Yes.
Like when you wrote your cookbook, Do you take recipes from other people and then like modify them to make them your own, or do you think of like all the ideas yourself and just experiment in the kitchen? Like, how do you go about that?
So a little bit of both, but there is a lot of content out there, as you guys know, right? You go on Pinterest and type in chicken casserole, and there's like way too many. So I find a lot of my inspiration from looking at other people, especially bloggers, because they're doing kind of unique things. And so what we do is we look at what kind of is the top, say we're doing a chicken book, what are the top recipes people are searching for in the chicken category? And anyone can find that information just on Google Analytics, essentially, or if you type in chicken in Pinterest, you're gonna see sort of the top, what people are looking for in chicken. And then we take those and we adapt them to make them our own. And so sometimes I'll take a recipe that looks really complicated and try and make it easier. So an adaptation, again, would be using a bag of mixed vegetables versus, cooking your green beans yourself and then putting it in. So that's a way to kind of adapt it. Again, we're always trying to make things a little easier. But I would say most of what we do, and I say we because I work at a test kitchen in Northbrook, and we have a couple chefs there and editors. And so it's very much a group effort. And a lot of times we'll look at other people's recipes and kind of put our own little spin on it, which is hard nowadays too because there's so many recipes. It's challenging to kind of make it your own. But that's sort of what we do, I would say. That's a good question. Okay. I'm slow over here. Yeah.
So my biggest complaint in the house is that my pasta is either too crunchy or mushy.
Yeah, that's a good question. I forgot about mine here. It's still crunchy. Yeah, that's, and everyone has a preference too. My husband, I like it a little more al dente, and then he's always like, this is hard or something. It's like, first of all, relax, it's not hard. Like, eat the pasta. But I think the hardest thing is when you take it out, it still continues to cook. And so timing it, I always try and take it out a little sooner again, because especially if it's not going right into a sauce, it's going to continue to cook, and then it will be mushier again. I don't know if I have a solution. I would just strain it as quickly as possible and shake it off. With this too, you're putting it in a casserole and then baking it, which is interesting. You'd think it'd be mushing, but it does hold up pretty well. I will do this a little al dente just to make sure that it doesn't get too mushy. I'm not really answering your question. I don't know how to, I just would err on the under, and it will always carry over a little bit. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's a hard question. Maybe we need to invent a product that cooks it perfectly. Appliance, like an Instant Pot. Are you into Instant Pots? Those are very trendy nowadays. All right, we're gonna start our mixture here. This is a hot, all right, so we're gonna start making our filling. Everything's gonna go in here. We're gonna start with butter. I like using butter versus olive oil because I like the taste, but you definitely could use olive oil or something that's a little, healthier if you wanted to. We're gonna melt our butter. We're gonna saute everything, and then I'm gonna show you how we're gonna thicken this up. So our pasta's still cooking in here. What else? I need some more questions. Yeah.
So I've noticed in your cookbooks, it's real weird to ask a question this close to the speaker. Thank you very much. That your recipes are not only easy, but they're very budget friendly and also time friendly. I'm sure you keep an eye on both.
Yes, that's a great question. So one of the things we like to do is not add tons of extra ingredients just to add them. So yes, it's wonderful to, parsley adds flavor for sure, but I don't love when it's you find a recipe and there's just so many things you need to add in, and sometimes those things don't really add a lot to it, and so you end up buying a lot at the store, and then you also have the extra, you buy parsley and then you have the whole bunch left over, right? And you just used a little. So we're very conscious about making sure we're not telling you to buy things just to buy them. Again, like I use broth for this because I think it does add a significant flavor versus water. Can you use water? For sure. So something we try to do is make sure these are kind of priced at a nice sweet spot for people. And then time is a huge thing. We certainly don't want you, sitting here spending way too much time prepping. Again, this would be a lot faster if I was at home not chatting. But that's something that we're really keeping an eye on. And I love to entertain, and so a lot of these recipes I like to make ahead of time. So something like this casserole, you can do the prep during the day when no one's around, and then kind of finish it when people come over. So that's something that we try and keep an eye on too, is if you could get a lot of it done so that you're not sort of spending too much time, in the kitchen when you have people over. And that's the way we keep the time down too. And again, there's a lot of shortcuts out there, because yes, would it be great to make everything from scratch? Of course, but using leftover chicken or buying a rotisserie chicken at the store is something that saves you a lot of time and money too, if you want to do it that way. All right, so we're going to saute our carrots here. I don't have a spoon, but that's okay. We have our bag of frozen vegetables. They've just been thawed out, and we're going to add those in. Just let them all kind of hang out together, and they're going to absorb all that butter, which is delicious. We're gonna salt it and pepper. I'm a little light on the salt, because chicken broth, as you guys know, can be really salty, even the low sodium chicken broth. So we have to kind of take it easy on the seasoning there. All right. Now you can shred your chicken or you can chop it. I'm probably just gonna chop it up. The other thing we like to keep an eye on is just letting things, again, I don't have to sort of fuss over the stove. It's all in a pot, and it all goes in the oven, and it turns out great. So we don't like to do things that are too overly complicated. Again, it's like I start something at home, and then the baby spits up, and then it's like, oh, I left the pot on. Real life happens real fast, right? How many kids do you have? 3? I can't even understand how people have more than 1 at this point. I'm like, I can't even have 1. It's a lot. It's awesome. What else? I need some more questions. Yeah, I love this. There's someone in the back.
Hi.
Hi.
It's loud. When you were on Cutthroat Kitchen, was it really difficult? Did the pressure get to you?
That's a good question. First of all, that show is crazy, which you guys who watch it know. And when they called to see if I wanted to be on it, I was like, no, not really. This is weird. And it was nuts. It was the craziest thing I've ever done. And it's very real. They tell you, this is what you're cooking, the ingredient comes out, and then it's like, go. It's not, oh, you have an hour to think about it. So you just have to kind of start doing it. And in one episode, I was cooking behind this giant door, sort of thing. And I'm telling you, I had bruises all over my hips from pushing this door around. I was exhausted, but it is crazy. I would say, does the pressure get to you? It really doesn't, and not because I'm comfortable on camera. You'd be fine too, because it's so crazy. You just don't have time to be nervous. In all honesty, and it's such a crazy zoo that it kind of doesn't matter what you do. So you're not nervous because it's just you can kind of do anything and it's all good. It's a mess. It's totally a mess. It's everything you imagine. Do you want to go on the show? Do you like to cook? Yeah, you should do it. You should apply. Kids cooking shows are becoming really, really popular, and I think they're going to do a Cutthroat Kitchen with kids, which would be awesome. Even crazier, but awesome. But yeah, no, it was really, really fun. The first time I was on, it was just wild. And what happened, they took away, you have 30 minutes to do something, and I started cooking, and then they took away my ingredients. So it was like a recipe, a swap where they take them away. And then I had to start from scratch. And that, I did get a little nervous, because I think my biggest fear on any cooking show and on the Food Network was that there's that clock, and it's counting down, and what if you literally are like, oh, here's my empty plate? So just getting something out was always the little nerve-wracking, sort of situation for me. But it's surprisingly easier than it looks, just because you're just in the moment. You just don't really think about whatever, is happening. And I was pregnant filming the Food Network star, and that was quite challenging. Because I didn't want to eat a lot of my food. So I was would rather not taste this because I might throw up, So that was hard. But anyways, this is all just cooking nicely in here. what we're gonna do, so we're gonna add some thyme in. We're gonna add our flour and then broth. And so what we're gonna do with that is thicken it up, all right? It looks like a lot of flour, but it's really not because we're gonna fill this whole thing, so don't worry. But we're gonna basically coat everything and it's gonna melt in the butter. Start to thicken a little. I'm ignoring my pasta. I'm gonna probably get this out. I hope I don't make us our mushy noodles over here. It's okay though. Let's see, do I have a sink? I don't really know. That would be awesome, but I don't know if we have a sink.
Nope, but I can go straight for you real quick.
What? Look at this. See, this would not be allowed on like Food Network. They feel like, no, can't have a friend help. Not allowed. There's no sink up here. That's so strange. I mean, I guess that's cool. All right, so our flour is coating everything, and I'm gonna add a little broth in here, and it's gonna thicken it up. And we wanna cook the flour, right? You don't wanna have any of that like floury taste. So we're gonna let this cook. I'm telling you too, I'm really chatty right now, but if you're at home, this is a fast recipe. So everything it's very quick. I don't know if you can see this, but it is really kind of getting nice and thick. All right, we're gonna add the rest of our broth. What else? I need some more questions. Yeah, I love this. Thank you.
Perfect, take it.
Since you talked about Chop Kitchen, or the one you talked about,
Yeah.
what's it like to work with Elton Brown?
He was wonderful. Not only is he incredibly smart, I mean, he was really interesting. And what they don't show, which I think they should because it's interesting, he would help you. So if you're trying to make something, he'd come over and say, you know, if I were you, I would cook it a little longer or whatever. And he's very, very knowledgeable. So that was really cool. And then something interesting about him is he loves kids. And so the first thing he asks everyone is who has a kid, and then he'll go get his cookbooks, sign them, take pictures. And apparently when he signs books, when he does events, kids get to cut the line. He has kind of this kid cutting the line rule, which I thought was really kind of neat. So he was just really, really cool person. And I actually felt like I learned from him just being on, with him. So he was great. All right, we've added our, yeah.
Could you describe the casting process and your journey on Food Network Star?
Sure, that's a good question. So because I was on Cutthroat Kitchen, I think that was, you had to submit your background check and recipes and images and everything. And so once they kind of know who you are within the network and you've been on a show, I think it was a little easier to get on the Food Network Star just because you'd already sort of done something. They also had a representation of you on camera so they could see that you weren't gonna totally freak out or whatever. And so someone reached out from the network asking if I was interested in applying. And I went through a couple Skype interviews, so you kind of talk them through something. You do a recipe like this, and they Skype and watch you, and then you're just sending in images and everything. And there's a big thick application packet. You have to answer a million questions. But they're really trying to build, you've seen the show is sort of build a story. And so if they're looking for a Southern baking gentleman, like I'm not that. Or if they're looking, they're always looking for certain things. And so it's really if you sort of fit that puzzle, I think. So they just try and get an idea of who you are. And then they really actually sort of mold you. So when you go on the show, I didn't wear any of my own clothes. So they buy the clothes for you, and they're sort of like, okay, we want you in this little pink shirt, make you look all nice and friendly, and then it starts to shift. Like, oh, now you're kind of mean. We're going to make you look like the mean one. They kind of like change your outfit up. So they really they have this sort of idea of who they want you to be and fit in that puzzle to create an interesting story. And if you watch the show too, everyone is so different, right? There's like the biker chef from New Jersey who makes Cajun food, and then it's like everyone's got their like things that are way out there. So, so my casting process was a little easier, I think, just because I had been on Cutthroat Kitchen. But I do think they do full-on like casting calls where you can go to sort of a hotel, and like American Idol, you go and like sing and dance or whatever. So I think they do have casting calls like that. But you can just, for Cutthroat Kitchen though, again, it was sort of just random, and I don't know. That's not, again, I'm not answering these questions that well, but that sort of was my experience. It was pretty fun though, and I got casted. They called and said, you know, you're gonna go on this show, and it was a few days after I found out I was pregnant. I thought, oh my God, this is gonna be really quite something, and it was awesome. So, all right, our noodles are in, and we put the rest of our broth in, so essentially, it looks like, again, a chicken noodle soup pot pie type of thing. And that flour will thicken too when we bake this. I'm gonna add in some cream, because why not? All right, and we're gonna pour this whole thing in our baking dish. I'm gonna try not to splatter this, bear with me. So, smells really good. I wish you guys could eat the food up here. All right, so it's gonna fill this really nicely. And before we put it in the oven, I told you about my pre-made biscuits here. You guys have all seen these at the store. They open it up for me back there because they're always dicey to open those packages live. But what we're gonna do is take each one, cut it in 4. This doesn't have to be too perfect. And we're just gonna top the whole thing, which is kind of fun. And what's gonna happen is they'll bake in the oven with the casserole. And I'm gonna show you what it looks like in the end. You don't have to wait around here for 30 minutes, I promise. But they'll sort of expand and cover the whole thing. And so when you serve it, everyone gets a little biscuit on top. What else? Do we have more questions here? Yes. Oh gosh, 5 years. Wow, I love that, but I'm not prepared for that. Where do I see myself? Okay, so I love kids, and I love cooking with kids. I think there's some cool opportunities in that. It's becoming, the TV shows are really popular, etc. So I'd love to do something with kids. I keep wanting to write a kids cookbook, but not sure my publisher over there wants one, but maybe I'm gonna convince her. So maybe something with kids. I think I maybe one day would like to have a store, something, not a restaurant, because again, I worked in fine dining. I'm not really, that's not my style really. So if I imagine something, a brick and mortar place, it would be more like I don't know, we'd sell books, and there'd be little cute party supplies, and then I'd cook, and then you could drink champagne, and then there's cupcakes, you know, like a little magical place. Would be fun. More kids? I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah.
So we food prep Sunday nights.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And we use a lot of quinoa to cover those up.
Yeah.
Is there any other grain or something besides quinoa that you think of as
We go. Yeah, I like barley a lot. It's kind of a nice. It's thicker too, like that, and it holds up. Quinoa's good. I think barley holds up really well. And farro or I don't know, that's right. But we use barley a lot. I do meal prep on Sundays, and we make sort of chipotle bowls. So like the chicken and rice and beans, and then I'll put barley in instead of rice. I guess the key though is always I like to separate it. So I store the rice separately, and then each day kind of combine it, and that'll hold up the rice a little better. You put it all together, which is good too, but I think that helps it to stay less mushy. Right, that's true. That's a lot of quinoa. It's good for you though. It's what are they called? Quinoa's called a superfood. Yeah. It has like everything you need. Like you can live off quinoa, I think. In all honesty, I think people can actually legitimately live off it. Okay, this is gonna go in the oven, and surprise, it's gonna come out in a minute. It's a new one. Okay. Well, look at that. So this is what it's going to be when it comes. I know, right? That was fast. I told you this is an easy recipe. But look how awesome that looks. and you can see the flour and cream and everything, it really thickened up in there. And so when you scoop it out, I'm going to use this, it tastes sort of like a chicken pot pie. Everyone gets one of these cute little biscuits. And I'll show you kind of, see how it's thick? The noodles are in there. Look at that. Perfectly delicious. This is something you could probably do on a Sunday too, and scoop it out each day. But this is it. I don't know what time it is, how much time I have. I probably have more time to talk to you guys. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little longer and we'll answer some more questions. But this is the recipe. Now I want to show you one of my favorite cookie recipes. We're totally switching gears. But these are called s'mores cookies in my cookie book. It's essentially a chocolate chip cookie, but we put a Hershey's bar on top and a marshmallow. And now what I'm going to do is broil it, and you'll see that it'll become sort of this melted s'mores situation. So you could do this with any chocolate chip cookie. Just stick a marshmallow on top, and you adhere it with this. So you put like a Hershey's, melt it a little, and it will stick on. And then we're going to broil it for a couple minutes. This is going to get hot. This is tricky. We have to watch it very carefully in here. If there's a light. Is there? Phone a friend. There we go. Okay, so I'll show you how these look when they come out. What else? I need some more questions. That was so fast. Yeah. My own cooking show? I love you. What is your name? You're my favorite person. I want my own cooking show. Cooking. Oh, well, thank you. That's so nice. I didn't win the Food Network star, so they didn't think so, but maybe someone else does. That's so nice, though. Cooking with kids. I love it. I do feel like that would be really fun. I have a new perspective. Right? A little baby Bjorn in the kitchen, like who can do this at home, right? Splatter, careful. That's so nice. I would love it. Anyone here work at the Food Network want to do a live show here? That's where dreams get made. Someone just said I'm worried about your cookies. Oh, look at that. It's perfect. We burned a couple. Good thing we have another tray. See, this is why I couldn't have a cooking show. I chat too much and then I burn things. Okay, but that's okay. This one's perfect. That one's a little crusty. Depends. So, raise your hand if you like s'mores that are burnt. There you go. See, look at that. It's all what you want. But there you go. But this one, I really wish you guys could eat these. Look how fun that is, right? Talk about cooking with kids. This could be like a little campfire themed birthday party. I'm already thinking about my kid's birthday party, right? It would be awesome. All right, we have any more questions? That was my final magical thing for you guys to see.
Thank you. Can you tell me, or tell all of us, what about your Food Network experience has changed you as a home cook?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think I'm more just confident, going on a show like that, and again, someone saying, okay, you have 30 minutes, this is what you have to cook, go. And you just sort of have to start because the timer's starting. And I think one thing I really learned, which was really cool for me personally, I always thought, okay, I've had a good career, I know how to cook, but really being put under pressure like that, I sort of felt like, I really know what I'm doing. So, and sometimes, there were a couple times, I was voted off, so clearly I wasn't successful every challenge, but I really felt like I sort of validated, like, I know what I'm doing, and this is fun. And so at home, I feel like some of that confidence carried over. And I think I am faster. You definitely learn how to be, you don't have a lot of time. So I feel like I'm more efficient. And, when I worked with Thomas Keller, he always called it the dance in the kitchen, which I think experiencing that is really cool, where you really feel like you're actually dancing because you're working on this and then you're turning around, and then it's like when you have so many things going on and when you have those moments where it like actually just clicks and works and you don't burn the cookies, that feels, really cool. And so I feel like you kind of live for those moments where you feel the dance, and a lot of times you don't, but that's when I learned, I think. So what else? Anything? Yeah, our next Cutthroat Kitchen star. What is up?
Oh, is it awkward if you get like voted off and then you have to like do a voiceover after?
Yeah, so okay. So you're standing up there, you're waiting for them to tell you. Here's the problem. In all honesty, you guys, when I got the boot, I thought I was gonna win that challenge. So sad. I was like, I did so well. That was awesome. I go in, I'm like feeling great. I loved the dress I was wearing that they bought me. I was like, this is an awesome day. And they're like, Addie, please leave. It's like, oh, that is just real sad. So the surprise was a lot. And then they immediately make you go into the room and they're like, how do you feel? Tell us about how you feel. And you just want to like hurt the person asking you that. It's like, please. I was surprised. I got a little emotional. I think it's just it's so exhausting. And I was there for 5 weeks and you live there. You live in a hotel and you're sequestered. So they take away your phone, your wallet. I was like, why are you taking our wallets? And they said, so you don't run away. I was like, first of all, that's alarming. That's the first thing I learned when I got here is that people tried to run away. So this is going to be fun. But you're so tired, you're living with these people, you're cooking all day, you're filming, and so I think when you put so much into it, and then they say, like, please go home, and you're like, why me, So it is emotional, you have to go right into that exit interview, tell how you feel, they don't let you collect your thoughts because they want to capitalize on that raw emotion, so they really get it out of you, too. They're like, well, when you call your husband, what are you going to tell him? It's like, I don't know, just please let me leave. But some people too get real sad, and then they don't let you see anyone. So like you're out. It's like you're done. Boom, bam, go home. Like I was on a red-eye flight that night. See ya. Like done. We're done with you. Yeah. So it's a lot, and especially because I was there for so many weeks, and again thought I was going to win that challenge, and Bobby apparently didn't think I was going to win that challenge. But it's an emotional ride, yeah. No, they're not in. We're good. We're not burning anything. Oh, phone a friend over here is worried about my cookies, which... Well, let's just put these ones in. I'm gonna show you guys I kind of know what I'm doing here. These ones are a little sad. All right, this is a good lesson, though, because broil is hot, which, yes, it works. This is a good... 550, though, is really hot, which, again, that's common sense, but it's really hot. This was, Okay, any other questions? I'm just babbling on over here. I'm gonna watch these like a hawk. Good thing for oven lights, I'll tell you that. Yeah, my favorite.
Do you have a relationship with the judges like throughout the whole process, or they just come for, to judge and that's it?
A little of both. They're in the kitchen the whole time, which again, some of the stuff we film is so cool. Like I wish they'd show more of that, because when Giada comes over and is like, hey girl, what's up? And, helping you out, like that's kind of fun. So they're definitely in there talking to you throughout. They're super nice. They know everything about you, which is sort of, they certainly, apparently they're part of the casting. I don't know if that's true, but I think they kind of do know who's coming in. Look, you guys, it's hot. Almost did it again. No, just kidding. All right, look at that. Yeah, that gets a round of applause right there. And look at that. This is a good part. Okay, so we do talk to the judges. They're really cool. Bobby was really nice when he found out no one knew I was pregnant, and then we filmed the finale 4 months later, so I was like not really showing on the show, except the stylist who dressed me legitimately told me I was gaining weight. He was like, girl, you need to ease up on the cupcakes. And I'm like, okay, thanks. And everyone every day was like eating cucumbers, and because you're on TV and they're all like, and I'm like, can I have a bagel with extra cream cheese? And my orders were real aggressive. I ate a lot of Cheetos too, which, not the healthiest, but the baby's wonderfully fine. So, and you're working like long hours too, so you're just hungry. So then I go back, and I'm giant. I was also like a giant pregnant person. So Bobby Flay's like, whoa, what? Like, what happened? When did this happen? He could not understand. And then he said to me, which is really nice, I might have to swear, but it's not a bad word. Okay. But he said to me, he's like, you can tell your son his mom is a badass. And I was like, that's the coolest thing you'll ever say to me. So that kind of sums up. There was some rapport and a relationship, and they actually just liked watching us, because it's like, I mean, it is like a zoo in there. People are just burning things in. I mean, I've never seen so many pans on fire, and you don't see it. There's all these medics there, like about to just like blow you with a fire extinguisher. So people are hurting themselves. One kid, his finger comes off. They just don't show the like pure chaos. So I think Bobby and Giada just liked like watching us be just complete, crazy people. But yeah, they're awesome. My experience on every Food Network thing I've done, it was really cool. And the people could not be nicer, and it was. They do a good job. This is really sticky. Stick on my hand. That's it, though. I love it. Thanks so much, you guys. I'm gonna just hang out for a bit. I'm just sticky. There's no sink. I'm gonna go wash my hands. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chef Addie Gundry, everyone. You can see more of Chef Addie, easyelegantentertaining.com. And she will be at our neighbors, Macmillan Publishers, tomorrow. So don't